For those old enough to remember, Worcester County was once part of the Diocese of Springfield. However, that all changed in 1950 when the new Diocese of Worcester was established with a new bishop, John WRIGHT, and new home, St. Paul's Cathedral. This year, the Diocese of Worcester has been celebrating with several events its 75th anniversary, one of the most memorable being the Anniversary Mass. Steve KILTONIC was there and takes a look back at the diocese's rich history.
On March 2nd, a solemn Mass commemorating the Worcester Diocese's 75th anniversary was held at St. Paul Cathedral. In celebrating the Mass with Robert McManus, the Bishop of Worcester, were Richard Henning, the Archbishop of Boston, William Byrne, Bishop of Springfield, and Richard Reedy, the Bishop of the Diocese of Norwich. Hundreds of other priests, religious men and women, deacons, and laity also participated as members of the Worcester Diocese rejoiced. Monsignor Francis Kelly, a retired priest, gave the homily, tracing the diocese's past, present, and future. He noted that on March 7, 1950, excitement was in the air, as evidenced by photos that appeared in the Worcester Telegram.
Showing police holding back literally thousands of people on Chatham Street and on High Street and in this whole area who came to witness this historic event.
15,000 people crowded the streets as the diocese's first bishop, John WRIGHT, entered the cathedral to receive the crozier from the Archbishop of Boston, Richard Cushing, and assume possession of the newly installed cathedra, or bishop's chair. During the procession, Ray Delisle, the diocesan chancellor, carried the papal decree or bull issued from Pope Pius XII.
And that, in Latin, would be from the Holy Father to announce what was happening, that there was a diocese being established, what it would cover in terms of territory, and how the priests would be assigned there.
Delisle read the entire translated decree during the Mass. WRIGHT was an auxiliary in Boston prior to being elevated to bishop. At 40, he was the youngest bishop in the country.
He was charismatic, he was young, he had lots of energy, and he really built this diocese in his first 7 or 8 years that he was here, 9 years. Opened 20 or 30 new parishes. He set the tone in a lot of ways for what the diocese would be known for. One of the first organizations he established was Catholic Charities within the first year. He established its own newspaper, the Catholic Free Press.
WRIGHT was also instrumental in helping the Sisters of Providence build a new St. Vincent's Hospital in the city. This 1954 photo, titled Sisters Enjoy Recreation, taken at Holy Cross's Fitton Field, was a big fundraiser for Catholic Charities.
He was involved with Anna Maria coming to this diocese from Marlborough and building up a new college for women.
After 9 years of unprecedented growth, Bishop WRIGHT left in 1959 to become Bishop of Pittsburgh. In 1969, he was appointed a cardinal and became Rome's prefect of the Vatican's Congregation of the Clergy. Bernard Flanagan, the Bishop of Norwich, was appointed as the diocese's second bishop.
Bishop Flanagan's background was a canon lawyer, but he was also just a very pastoral bishop. He recognized that a diocese would have challenges financially in order to be able to continue to do things. So he established the Bishop's Fund, the annual appeal.
During his 24-year episcopacy, Bishop Flanagan opened a number of Catholic schools and established youth programs like the CYO in parishes across the diocese. Flanagan is most associated with the Second Vatican Council. Recognizing its historical significance, he corresponded weekly with parishioners.
Every week he would write letters from the council, which were published in the Catholic Free Press. So people followed along the whole progress of the Second Vatican Council. They were living it with him. He came back from there energized and began to institute things very quickly in our diocese, in liturgical reform, in ecumenical discussions with the Orthodox.
Bishop Flanagan retired in 1983, and Timothy Harrington, a native of Chicopee, was appointed the diocese's third bishop in a ceremony held at the Worcester Memorial Auditorium.
His sister was a nun at Elms College. Another brother was a Monsignor in the Diocese of Springfield. So, he was definitely of the Springfield Diocese in his heart.
With a background in social work, Harrington served as the head of Catholic Charities.
He was very involved with starting many programs for recovering alcoholics, for guys who were really on the street.
Bishop Harrington retired in 1994, and 65-year-old Daniel Riley, who had been Bishop of Norwich for 25 years, was named Worcester's fourth bishop. During Riley's tenure, the sex abuse crisis was foremost on everyone's minds.
He dealt with it. He had started boards before there was even a charter. He was involved with the USCCB and on the USCCB when the Charter for the Protection of Children was established. A proponent for the Catholic Church having a voice in the community. He was very involved in civic affairs, hosted interreligious dialogue, in finding ways for various faiths to come together and share at least their common values. He was also a proponent of Catholic schools and education, even though there had been a decline.
Bishop Riley retired in 2004, and Robert McManus was installed as the fifth bishop. McManus hails from Providence, where he was the auxiliary.
McManus comes from a completely different background in terms of his education and his focus. So it's moral theology.
Bishop McManus was confronted with many challenges when he arrived.
He had to continue to deal with many cases of abuse in our own diocese. He had to deal with closing churches and merging parishes and recognizing that we have fewer priests available today.
Bishop McManus, who celebrated his 20th anniversary last year, has embraced a component of the diocese that hasn't changed over 75 years, immigration. When the diocese was established, the main ethnic groups were primarily those with European roots. Today, the diocese is more ethnically diverse than ever, and during the 75th anniversary Mass, these new groups showcase their traditions and culture.
What may have been a very slow start is now a very large African population served by an African ministry. We have a very large and thriving Vietnamese parish, but there are also Vietnamese throughout the communities.
As the former rector of the Providence Seminary, Bishop McManus has also prioritized vocations.
He has made that first and foremost out of all of his issues, that we be encouraging, inviting men into discernment for vocations. We've been blessed to have, on average, 2 to 3 ordinations a year.
In his homily, Monsignor Kelly recognized the many diocesan priests who faithfully bring God's heart to his people. Kelly offered these words from St. Paul the Apostle as the Worcester Diocese looks to a bright future with the 100th anniversary on the horizon.
Rejoice in the Lord always. Have no anxiety at all. Nothing can separate us from the love of Christ.
For Real to Real, I'm Steve Kiltonic.